Alright guys, so in this video we're going to go ahead and go over homework number 2 for Webtech. So for homework number 2, question 1, I created a CSS rule that places a background image halfway down the page. I use background position center 50% to move it to the center horizontally and halfway down vertically. Then I use background repeat to make the image tile only across the horizontal direction, and background attachment fixed to make the image stay even when you're scrolling. So if we come and drag it over to here, you can see the BMW here in the middle, and even if you scroll down or scroll up, the BMW stays in the middle. For question number 2, I created a CSS rule that targets both H1 and H2 elements. I used a group selector H1 and H2 and gave them a padding of about 0.5 EMs, a dash border using border 2px dash black, and a margin of 0.5 EM. Padding creates space inside the border, and margins add space outside the element. So if you come drag it into here, see the border, it's all in bold. Alright, for question number 3, I created a simple page layout using header element and 2 p tags for paragraphs. I gave the header a background color and a solid border so you can clearly see where it is. For the paragraphs, I used float left to place them side by side like columns. Each paragraph is styled with a dash border and a background color for visibility. So if we come here to question number 3 and drag it over, you'll be able to see the page header. This is the first paragraph, and they each have a border. So for question number 4, I started with the HTML structure from figure 2.3, which displays a heading and several links. I added an embedded style sheet inside the head using the style tag. First, I created a rule that turns H1 heading blue using color blue. Then I used all anchor A tags to also appear blue, but without underlines by using text decoration none. I also added a hover rule so that when you hover over a link, the background turns yellow. So I'll show you what that looks like now. If we go down to question 4 here, and then if you hover over each one, it turns yellow. You can click it and it'll go straight to the link. Alright, for question 5, I created a web page that displays the phrase new WebKit features with a large text stroke effect. I used a CSS class called stroke text and set the font size to 700% to make it big and noticeable. Then I used the WebKit text stroke property to add a 3-pixel navy colored outline around the text. I also set the main text color to light blue so it stands out from the darker stroke. So I'll show you what that looks like right now. Go to question 5 and drag it over. New WebKit. Alright, for question 6, I created 3 div elements, each size 100 by 100 pixels. I styled them with a 3-pixel solid black border and gave each one a different border radius to demonstrate how it affects the shape of the corners. The first box has a 10px radius, so the corners are slightly rounded. The second one has a 50px radius, which makes it more oval. And the third one has a 100px radius, turning it into a perfect circle. So I'll show you what that looks like right now. Go to question 6, drag it over. See more of a square shape, but it's rounded. And then it gets more and more perfect into that circular shape. For question number 7, I created a 500 by 500 pixel div and used a diagonal linear gradient as the background. The gradient goes from the top left corner to the bottom right corner using the full spectrum of rainbow colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. I used the linear gradient function with a 45-degree angle to create the diagonal effect. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick. That's good, and it goes diagonal grading from purple all the way down to that red color. Alright, question number 8. I created an animated box using CSS that moves in a square pattern. I gave the element a class of dot box and styled it with a fixed size, background color, and position relative so we can move it using top left properties. Then I created a keyframe animation called Move Square that moves the box through 4 stages, right, down, left, and back up. I used percentages to time each corner of the square and made the animation loop infinite using animation move square for as linear infinite. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick. Go here down to question 8. Goes down, left, up again, and then moves in this pattern over and over again infinitely. So for question number 9, I modified the example from figure 5.16 to create a vertical flexbox layout. I gave the container the class .flexbox and applied display flex along with flex direction column, which stacks it vertically. Inside the container, I added the 3 divs with the class .item. I styled each item with flex uh, column 1 to make them share space equally. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick. If we come here to question number 9, pop it over, you can see that they're each stacked one on top of each other. For question number 10, I created a transformation program that displays 4 images using HTML and CSS. I placed the images inside a container with a class of .gallery and used Flexbox to arrange them neatly. Each image is styled to have a fixed size and a transition effect on the transform property. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick. If we go over here to number 9, oh no, sorry, number 10. Hover over the images, you can see every time you hover your mouse over the image, it increases by a size of 20%. And I did that using transform, semicolon, scale 1.2 in parentheses. So for question number 11, I created a JavaScript program that asks the user to enter the radius of a circle using window.prompt. Once the user enters a value, I converted it into number using parse float and 2 parentheses. I then calculated the diameter using 2 times the radius, and the circumference using 2 times pi times the radius, and the area using pi times the radius squared. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick. Over you take number 11, drag it over, enter the radius of a circle. Let's say you enter the radius is 6, okay. Radius 6, diameter 12, circumference 37.70, and area 113.10. So for question number 12, I wrote a JavaScript that prompts the user to enter 2 integers. I use parse int in parentheses to convert both inputs into numbers, and then I use the remainder operator percentage to check if the first number is divisible by the second. If the remainder is 0, that means the first number is a multiple of the second. I displayed both numbers and a message telling the user whether the first number is or is not a multiple. So if we pop number 12 over real quick, it's going to prompt you to enter the first integer, let's say 12. Okay, in the second integer, we're going to say 6. First number is 6, second number is, first number is 12, second number is 6. 12 is a multiple of 6. So if we refresh the page here, we can do 8 and 3. You can see first number is 8, second number 3. 8 is not a multiple of 3. So last but not least here, question number 13. I created a JavaScript program that generates a table of numbers from 0 to 5, along with their square and cubes. The script doesn't ask the user for any input. Instead, it uses a for loop to go from 0 to 5. So inside the for loop, I calculated the square by multiplying the number by itself and the cube by multiplying it twice. So if we come here to number 13, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 4, 4, 8, 3, 9, 27, 4, 16, 64, 5, 25, 125. Squares and cubes from 0 to 5.